the Pro Sport Report with Jim Kapsa. Exclusive interviews with guests from the world of professional and amateur sports. Now, here's your host on the Pro Sport Report, Jim Kapsa.
Hello there, sports fans. Welcome back to the Pro Sport Report. This is Pro Sport Report 2.0 because our Pro Sport Report show hasn't been on cable for a while, simply because we've been doing other projects. In other words, we've been doing things like this one here. It's a DVD called The Scout, which is a special documentary for Major League Baseball that features 19, count them, 19 of the greatest baseball players of all time. 7 of them are in the Hall of Fame. Plus, we've got a couple of executives and Commissioner Rob Manfred and Commissioner Emeritus Bud Selig. They're all on this program. And here's one, another project that we did called Inside Baseball. And later on in the show, we're going to tell you how you can get your DVDs of both of these, The Scout and Inside Baseball. And they all contain my classic interviews over 36 years of doing the Pro Sport Report. And now you're going to see them on Pro Sport Report 2.0. For all you regular treasured viewers of the Pro Sport Report who watched my show for 36 years, we have a new show, and I say we because I have 2 co-hosts. My co-hosts are Rich Nye, former Major League Baseball pitcher, pitched for 6 years. One of the teams that he pitched for were the Chicago Cubs of 1969, that infamous team. And he also pitched for the St. Louis Cardinals and Montreal Expos. And the other good friend is Bobby Considine, who was a fireman for the city of Berwyn, and he saved lives all over the western suburbs for over 30 years as a firefighter. And then he became, after he retired from being a firefighter, he became an actor. And you can see him on Chicago Fire and Chicago PD. But that's coming up later in our show. Another little title that's coming up later in the show is something that we did in Berwyn at a Little League field with Rich Nye, and it's called Bullpen Buddies. So we've got a full show lined up for you, but right now we're going to start out our big roster of players, 19 players, 7 of them Hall of Famers. We're going to start out with Ryne Sandberg, George Brett, and Brooks Robinson.
Ryne Sandberg is the latest home run hitter on the Chicago Cubs, and I know you've been asked this question before, and I already know the answer, but for our youngsters out there, are you going for home runs when you go up there?
No, not at all. That's not really really the style of my hitting. When I hit home runs, it's times where I just get my pitch to hit, and I have a good swing at it, and get the ball up. And yesterday was one of those days where the wind's blowing out a little bit, and I just happened to hit a couple balls good up in the air, and they're home runs here at Wrigley.
Hit the ball where it's pitched, right?
That's what I try and do.
Yeah.
If the pitch is away from me, then I have more success hitting it the other way or up the middle. And when I do that, then I'm staying within myself, and I hit the way that I'm supposed to hit, and then I'm successful.
Now that's a term that we've heard an awful lot. Players use that term, staying within myself or having an idea up there. What is your definition of staying within yourself?
Well, I think first of all, you try and figure out what your job is in the lineup, and I'm hitting second in the lineup, and I think it's my job to get on base, and to get on base, you take walks, you take base hits, and that's what I try and do. I just try and hit line drives and get on base, and then we have the true power hitters coming up behind me.
Gave us a lot of thrills when you were with the Chicago Cubs and the Dodgers and so on. Matter of fact, you were with the Brooklyn Dodgers, were you not?
Oh, yes. Yeah. My first year in the major leagues was in 1954 with the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Yeah. How'd you like playing in Brooklyn?
Brooklyn, to me, there's 3 parks, to me, that always stick out in my mind. Ebbets Field in Brooklyn.
Which is gone now.
That's right. Fenway Park in Boston and Wrigley Field. They've always been 3 of my most favorite ballparks, and Fenway and Wrigley Field still my 2 favorite parks.
Yeah, but we're doing a special on the Chicago White Sox, but it certainly wouldn't be complete without a member of the opposition, and of course, Kansas City Royals star third baseman is George Brett. George, did you bring your...
tell me this for the White Sox. See you later.
Did you bring your bat with you, George?
I brought a bat. This isn't my bat. My bat's buried in the bat case, and the bat boy's still trying to find it.
Okay. The reason I asked him, I was going to take a look at that bat, and I was going to check the pine tar. That that whole rigmarole, you're probably tired of talking about it by now, but it's got to bring a smile to your face, doesn't it?
Well, with the end results, yes. When the whole commotion was going on, I was a madman. I just blanked out. I didn't know what I was doing. For about 20 minutes after that game in New York, I was hyperventilating in the dugout or in the locker room. I almost fainted. That's how mad I was. And I very seldom get mad at this game because it's a silly game that we play. This is a stupid game. You go out here and you try to have fun and help your team win. And if you don't win, you're trying to analyze why you didn't win and maybe correct it for the next game. But that was just a series of circumstances that I want to forget, and I had forgotten it until you brought it up.
Gee, now I got him mad at me. I wish I would have known beforehand, but seriously, the pine tar actually has nothing to do with the flight of the ball. We've got a lot of youngsters watching our show. What advice do you give to a youngster who wants to be a Major League Baseball player?
Well, just to watch and listen and participate as much as possible, to learn about the game of baseball and to enjoy it. I think the camaraderie is the most important aspect of the game.
I'm going to start out by asking our guest a trivia question. Who was the only pitcher that Pete Rose ever hit a Major League Grand Slam home run off of?
Well, I should know that one. That's in Trivia Pursuit right now. So Dallas Green's the answer, and Pete never has let me forget that either.
Hello again, and welcome to the Pro Sport Report. I'm Jim Kapsa, and this handsome guy sitting next to me is a real treat for you baseball fans on today's show. It's Bill Skowron. Moose, thanks for being on our show.
Jimmy, I'm sorry it took so long, but I've been tied up for the last 2 or 3 weeks, but it's nice to be with you.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to get you on the show anytime. Moose Skowron, as many of you fans know, is an all-time great New York Yankee. He played for the Chicago White Sox, and he did a tremendous job for the White Sox. Even played for the Dodgers one year, right?
That's right.
Against the Yankees in the '63 World Series.
Yeah, I get traded in 1962 during the winter, and get traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and we beat the Yankees 4 in a row in '63. And I hit .385 against my former teammates. And as it turned out, after the ball game, Mickey Mantle heard that I said that I'd rather been on a loser when a guy was interviewing me, and Mickey never forgot that. Until this day, I felt the same way because I thought the Dodgers gave me a little hard time there for the year I was there, but I was glad to get back to the American League, Jim. Now, when you say that you thought they gave you a little bit of a hard time, they didn't pay you what you thought you should be getting? Or no, it wasn't. No, Jimmy, it wasn't the money. It's just that I was out with Drysdale and Koufax and Ron Peronowski, and we had dinner together. And I heard Johnny Podres say that I was committed to the Washington Senators in June.
Oh, yeah?
And now I go home, I tell Dick Trzewiski, my roommate, I says, Dick, this isn't right. I said, I just found out I've been traded. He said, how do you know that? I said, well, Johnny Podres is close to Buzzy Bavasi, and they already committed to me in June. After the World Series, Buzzy Bavasi calls me up. He said, Moose, we're trying to get out of this deal.
Oh, really?
And I went through a lot. I shouldn't even mention this stuff, but it's passe.
Well,
But just the idea, it made me angry.
But that must have been something playing against your real buddies in that World Series. Of course, you had to do your best because that's the professional athlete in you, and you did your best. You killed them.
Well, the thing is, Sandy Koufax struck out 15 Yankees the first game we played, and then Drysdale and Johnny Podres, and we used Ron Peronowski. Was the only relief pitcher we had.
Moose, I'm glad you could make it to the Pro
Jimmy,
Sport
thank
Report.
you. I know it's been a long time. Maybe
we'll have you on again around World Series time.
That's fine with
me. How's that sound?
That's fine.
That's all the time we've got on the Pro Sport Report for today. For Bill Moose Skowron, I'm Jim Kapsa. We'll see you next time. Have a happy day. Do you mind telling us what your top salary was in the major leagues?
Well, in 1961, I won 18 games and lost 5. I might have won 20 that year, but I lost my dad in September, and I didn't do much pitching in September. That would have been the year I could have won 20 games. But the next year when I went in, I said, boy, I'm going to get a real big raise. I think I was making something like $22,000 in 1960.
Okay.
And Mr. Bavasi, who was the general manager at the time of the Dodgers, he says, no, I don't want to put any pressure on you, son. He says, you're getting a $13,000 raise. I'm raising you up to $35,000.
Wow.
I said, what? I thought I was going to make about 50 or 60. He said, you know that mining town you live in up there? says, "Are they still hiring people?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, if you don't want the offer, go work in a mine." I said, "I'll take it."
There you go. We skipped over something very important. You were named the most valuable player of the series in 1955. That was right. And also Sportsman of the Year by Sports Illustrated. So that must have been your best year. Is that what you consider your best year?
Well, I would have to be my best year, but it wasn't my best year. In fact, I was a losing pitcher in '55. I won 9 and lost 10. So it really turned out to be the best year, but it really wasn't. But that year in '55, I started out like I had 7 wins in June and 2 losses, but I had injuries all summer long, and I ended up being out with a bad shoulder for about a month and a half. And you know, when you get out of shape, you just don't come back like you do. But I got good late in September, and the Dodgers started me in 2 games in the World Series. So apparently, you know, the 9 and 10 didn't make that much difference to the Dodgers.
Well, you were well rested.
I was well rested. I was a fresh pitcher, just like a horse that hadn't been out for 3 months.
Well, skip ahead to 1961. Here it says you had perhaps your greatest year in the majors, finishing 18-5 to lead the National League in 1-loss percentage. You won Game 2 of the '63 World Series at Yankee Stadium. The Dodgers, who had beaten the Yankees only once in 7 World Series while playing in Brooklyn, swept the Yankees in the first series between Los Angeles and New York. And that was when you had my old friend Moose Skowron as a teammate.
Moose, we got Moose over the winter from the Yankees, and he did a great job for us that year. And you know, it's really something. You got Koufax pitches the first game. I pitched the second, only because we were playing in New York. Otherwise, Drysdale would have probably got that. But Drysdale shuts him out in the 3rd game, and Koufax beats Whitey Ford in the 4th game. I think the Yankees scored 4 runs in the whole series.
I remember Moose told me on one of our previous shows that he helped win that one game with a Grand Slam home run, I believe, in '63.
Oh, yeah. Moose was the best. He could get the base hits that looked to left and hit him to right. He was something else. He was a great team guy.
Well, Johnny, I don't want to keep you too much longer. You're due to sign some autographs here, right? George Johnson's got you all lined up at one of the tables, or how do they work that here?
I think so. I'll get to the table and see if I'll sign a few autographs, and when I'm done, I'll go back to the hotel, or I may end up. I used to like to go over to downtown in Chicago. I used to, when we used to play and get a rain out early in the year, and that Sportsman's Park used to run that track over there. I used to go over there.
They're running at Hawthorne
and right now I know they're running at Hawthorne. If I get out of here early enough, I might have to go down there today.
Well, you know, George owns a few horses. He's liable to give you a hot tip.
I try to get the form and pick my own losers.
There you go. Johnny, thanks for being with us on the Pro Sport Report.
Okay,
I really appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you. Andre, what are you doing in the White Sox dugout?
It's the same thing I'm doing now, waiting to get an interview done.
Well, Andre is one of the nicest guys in the major leagues, and he's very easy to get along with from what I've heard. I haven't talked to you yet, but that's what I hear from everybody. You bounced back from what a lot of people thought was an injury that wouldn't let you come back and play the way you are right now. How'd you do it?
Well, I don't think it was an injury that wouldn't let me come back. A lot of people wrote me off because of the fact that I was 35 years old and I had a history of knee problems. But they don't know what really drives an individual or what motivates you, what your work habits are. So I don't think I had a lot to prove. It was just that I felt I had to get the work done in the off season, the necessary work to prepare myself for the following season.
Well, if you go up to the plate, you're not thinking about hitting a home run every time, though, are you?
No, not at all. I think home runs are going to come when you least expect them to. The idea that I have when I'm up at the plate is I want to pick up the pitching patterns and I want to have a quality at-bat, make sure that I don't get cheated. There are going to be some times when you go up and you feel that you had a wasted at-bat, but try not to have too many of those. And my thinking is, again, just go up there and see the ball, drive the ball, and not try and do too much with your body as far as overswinging.
What kind of advice do you have for youngsters out there?
Well, to mainly pay special attention to instruction and be focused upon whatever you're into, and most of all, think, make situation a lot easier for yourself if you follow instruction and you set goals. It's not going to be a piece of cake day in and day out, but you got to be willing to sacrifice, dedicate yourself, and most of all, show some form of discipline.
It seems like once the weather gets warm, then I start swinging the bat better. So,
you're batting over 400, I believe, in May. So I think you've already made up for the slow start. May's always been one of your good months.
Yeah, it has. Maybe one of the reasons because I feel like I have to make up for April, and so I have to put together a pretty good month to get back to where I should be. And right now I feel pretty good at the plate, and I just hope to stay consistent for the rest of the year and just help us win a lot of games this year.
I had you on my show a couple of years ago, and I asked you if you concentrate or if you try to hit home runs when you went up there, and you said obviously you don't. You leave that up to the home run hitters. And last year you came back and led the National League with 40 home runs. Now what do you have to say about that?
Well, I still didn't think about going up there and hitting home runs last year. I think I just have a nice line drive swing, and once in a while I get one up in the air, and especially playing at Wrigley Field. When you get the ball up in the air on certain days, those line drives turn into home runs. So I just try and maintain a line drive stroke all year, and last year was just a lot of fun as far as hitting home runs.
I guess you can't beat your success. A friend of mine asked me, he said, if you get to talk to Brooks Robinson, ask him how he made all those diving catches. Did he have glue in his glove?
It's a sense of timing you have to have. I mean, you can work at it and make some improvements on things you don't do, but I've always felt like I had that sense of timing just to be where the ball was, even in basketball as a high school basketball player. And that's kind of a God-given talent more than anything else, that sense of timing to get the jump on the ball. And listen, Boog Powell had more stolen bases than I did, so it wasn't my speed, but I had the very quick reactions. I started out as a second baseman, and about 50 games into my first year, when I was 18 years old, they said, hey, in the long run, we think third base is going to be your position. You have great reflexes, great 1, 2, 3 steps like that, and at third base, it's a reflex position. So they made the right move, and I got a little stronger and became a pretty good hitter. So things worked out well.
Yeah, they sure did for you, and it worked out well for the Baltimore Orioles too, because Brooks Robinson, nobody can touch him. And we've got a guy with the Cubs right now, Alfonso Soriano, who was an infielder. Yeah. And when he was with the Nationals last year, they asked him to play the outfield, and he didn't want to do it because he'd never played the outfield before. But you were a youngster back in the day when they switched you to third base, so you really, I don't think you had a choice, right? I mean,
no, you didn't. The manager said, I want you to play third, and you went to play third.
And you listened, right?
And you listened, that's exactly right. But it was no big adjustment. As a youngster growing up back in Arkansas, I was a pitcher, I was a catcher, I was a second baseman, I was a third baseman. But my last couple years, I did play second base, and that was the way I was. I wasn't drafted. The Orioles signed me. They didn't have the draft at that particular time, but I signed with Baltimore because they were the old St. Louis Browns in 1954.
Right.
They came to Baltimore in 53. They came to Baltimore in 54, and then I signed in 55. So I've seen every player with the exception of about 3 or 4 guys who ever put on an Oriole uniform.
I get the impression that you would have played for the love of the game.
Oh, I tell you.
I mean, you're just a baseball player.
I never wanted to do anything else. I kind of tagged along after my dad, who was a very good player, a semi-pro player. In fact, in 1938, right here at Soldiers Field, he played for the World Championship fast-pitch softball.
Really?
And that goes back to 38. So he loved baseball, and that's where I was really, I got my interest in the game, and I never wanted to do anything else.
Now, what do you think about the salaries that are being thrown around these days? I mean, are you a little bit slightly envious?
Sure. I would have loved to be big, but it doesn't bother me. You know, the way I look at it is, hey, if the importance of your job dictated how much you were going to make, then the baseball player would be at the bottom of the heap. But we live in a society where entertainers and athletes are going to make more than anyone else, just a fact of life. And that's what baseball is, it's entertainment. So I don't have any problems with it. I think the owners, when I played the game, the owners ran the game, and now the players are running the game. But that's just the way it is. Everyone's making a lot of money, so I'm happy for them. I got a great pension out of the game of baseball. I played, as I say, I played part of all of 23 years, so I couldn't be happier. I still follow the game. I enjoy it very much. So it's been great.
Well, you'd command a $150 million contract
I don't know about
if
that.
you were playing. You know, somebody asked Babe Ruth one time, I think it was when he signed his first $100,000 contract, what makes him think he deserves $100,000? The president of the United States doesn't even get. He says, I had a better year than the president.
That's right. Right.
Well, you had a better year most years than all of the ball players in Major League Baseball, and it's a real honor for us to have you on our show, and I thank you very much, and very much good luck to you in the future.
I appreciate that.
Thank you very much,
nice being
Brooks.
with you.
Now we've got a great honor on the Pro Sport Report. I'm very humbled to be talking with Hall of Famer Red Schoendienst. Red, thanks very much for being on our show. Appreciate it very much. Red Schoendienst, one of the greatest second basemen of all time, no doubt about it. And I have to check your figures, 19 years in the big leagues, a great portion with the St. Louis Cardinals. And of course, you were with the 57 and 58 Milwaukee Braves. My good friend Johnny Logan was your Keystone combination partner.
Right.
And Andy Pafko, another good friend of mine, was on that team too. Right. This is a great time for you to talk to your old buddies like that.
Well, it's great, you know, to see and then see some of the coaches, Dungy and all of them out there. I saw Gail Sears and of course the Manning boys and Mr. Manning.
Yeah.
So this is a great show here just to see all the people that's going to be here, all the celebrities.
And of course, you're the main attraction here. You know that, right?
I don't think so.
I have to ask you, how does it feel to bat .342 for the season and come in second in the batting title race?
Well, that was pretty tough. Carl Furillo beat me out that
by
year.
2 points.
By 2
1953,
points.
yeah.
And he didn't play that last month of the season.
Oh, I knew there was a reason.
Yeah, they had him, and I come close to tying him. I don't know, and it just so happened I didn't make it. I guess it wasn't just for me to do it. That's all.
Well, for you to play with guys like Stan Musial, who's perennial batting champion, and a lot of the other great ball players on your Cardinal team, and then to mention. Not just talking about Red's playing career, but I've got my statistics book here, and I've got to turn to the manager section. You folks out there in the viewing audience, you may not remember this, but Red Schoendienst managed for 14 years the St. Louis Cardinals, managed 1,999 games.
12 years.
12 years.
Yeah.
Okay, well, and then they had you down for 1980 and 1990 in the book. I don't know what that's all about, but.
Oh, I was, when Whitey was there, I'd done a little managing then when he stepped down.
See, I got your stats right out of that book
all
there.
Right.
But 12 years straight from 65 to 76. You won 1,041 games as a manager, 955 losses, 522 winning percentage, and that's pretty darn good. You know, a lot of years I've heard that your name was Alfred Red Schoendienst, but I looked up in the book, it's Albert Fred Schoendienst.
That's right.
And you were born in Germantown, Illinois.
Germantown, Illinois.
Where's Germantown exactly?
Well, that's just about 55 miles east of St. Louis and in Germantown, all small communities through there. Scott Air Base, that was known for the big thing around that part of the country, and then we got in there, Clinton County. Everybody played baseball in Clinton County, St. Clair County there.
So that's how the Cardinals got a hold of you. You were too close to St. Louis, not close enough to Chicago.
Well, I had a tryout with the Cardinals at Old Sportsman's Park, and they signed me to a contract.
Yeah. Well, that's where Joe Garagiola and Yogi Berra, they went to a tryout like that too.
The same year.
Same year? Yeah.
Same year.
Before we talk about the 67-68 Cardinals, I have to go back to your playing career and you playing with Andy Pafko and Johnny Logan and Hank Aaron and Eddie Matthews and Warren Spahn and my good friend Del Crandall. What a team that 57 Braves team was, right?
Well, you know, I've been fortunate in the game of baseball. When I first started out, I played with the Cardinals, of course, and the great Stan Musial, Enos Slaughter, the Cooper boys, and you gave Marty Marion and so many of them. And then I went to the Giants for a year, and I played with Willie Mays, and so I've been pretty fortunate. Then coming to the Braves, when I got traded to the Braves, that was a big break for me because they had an outstanding club.
It was a big break for the Braves. You made that team midway through the 57th season.
Well, the 2 years I was there, we won, so that was great. But we had great players. We had Henry Aaron, we had Adcock and Crandall and Spahn Burdette.
Yeah.
Oh, we had a relief pitcher. We all in all, that was a great ball club. And mentioned Johnny Logan. Now, he was a better ball player than what people gave him credit for.
He had pretty good range at shortstop.
Oh, yes, very good. Tough, too.
He led the league in fielding, I think, 3 times.
Yeah.
But, we're talking about all these other ball players and how great of a manager you are and great of a ball player you are. You're in the Hall of Fame. What was your secret? Did you have a secret to being such an outstanding player and manager?
No, not really. I just loved the game of baseball. I played when I was a kid, and that's about, that's all you did in them days. I'm 84 years old, so I've been playing a long time.
You sure don't look it, Red.
I've had a good time doing it, and I concentrated on the game of baseball. One thing, Ranch Ricky, when he signed me up, he gave me $75 a month, to send me out. And at that particular time, he said, we're going to give you the opportunity to play. And I said, Mr. Ricky, all I wanted to see if I can play. If I can't make the big leagues in 3 years, I'll go back to school and learn to trade.
I guess they found out you could play, Red.
Yeah.
Listen, you've got to go and sign autographs. I've got to let you go. I really appreciate your being on, and it's an honor to meet you and talk to you. Thank you very much, Red Schoendienst.
Been fun.
I know you enjoyed those little interview clips as much as I enjoyed being there and doing them, along with those great ball players. And now we're going to, as I promised, show you a little bit of a special feature called Bullpen Buddies that Rich Nye was nice enough to help me with. He came out to the Little League field in Berwyn, Illinois, a western suburb of Chicago, and we had 3 Little Leaguers in a friendly competition to see who Rich and I would pick to be the winner for the day in Bullpen Buddies.
I'm Coach Cappy, and this is Rich Nye, former Chicago Cub. And Rich, thanks for coming out and helping us at the Little League field today.
Pleasure to be here, Jim.
Rich Nye, former Chicago Cub, he also played with the St. Louis Cardinals and the Montreal Expos. I got that right, huh? And Rich still holds the record for 13 victories by a rookie Chicago Cub pitcher. You played with the Cubs in 67, 68, and of course 69, which was probably one of the best Cub teams of the last 2 or 3 decades. What can you tell us about that 1969 team everybody thought was going to win it?
Well, my heart's broken just like everyone else. I'm a frustrated Cub fan, but it was a heck of a lot of fun, and the excitement and enthusiasm that started being generated for the Cubs in Chicago has just carried on for 30 years.
Now, the objective of this is for the youngster to get 3 ground balls and then 3 fly balls. A couple of warm-up tosses first. It looks like he can handle himself pretty good. Now he's going to get 3 ground balls. Okay.
Ready?
Oh, he handled that one beautifully. All right. Contestant number 2, get out there. Okay, now Rich Nye, former Chicago Cub, is going to throw a couple of warm-up tosses to Giovanni Cantwell, contestant number 2. So he's got a good arm, too. All right, now 3 ground balls. Handle that one like a pro. Okay. All right. Very good. Now we're going to go for the fly balls. And he called for it. Very good. Shows good coaching. All right, he called for it again. Very good. Strong arm. Here comes contestant number 3. All right, Ross Carlson, contestant number 3. He's got his cheering section in the stands there.
That's good right there.
Couple of warm-up tosses. Now we get 3 fly balls. Rich and I is getting a good workout here. Actually, Rich looks like he could pitch tomorrow for the Cubs. All right. And one more. All right. Well, we've seen some outstanding baseball here, sports fans, and while Rich Nye is trying to make up his mind as to which of these players is going to be the winner today, let's be thinking that nobody made an error out here. It's going to be a real tough decision, and after a short pause, we'll be right back with Rich Nye's decision. Okay, we're back with the final segment of Bullpen Buddies, and Rich Nye has made his decision, but we're going to hold off just a minute or so, and we're going to let the Little Leaguers ask Rich Nye their own personal question. Contestant number 1, ask Rich a question.
What was your favorite pitch?
Strikeout.
He asked him what his favorite pitch was, and Rich said a strikeout. I think he means fastball or curve or so forth.
I know that. Actually, my favorite pitch was a changeup.
Ah. Why is that, Rich?
Well, you know, everybody in the big leagues can hit a fastball. If you get the ball to move a little bit and you change speeds on it, that's where a lot of the success comes from. So not all of us have arms and bodies like Kerry or Nolan Ryan, and we have to come up with some different things, and I found one of my most successful pitches was a changeup, which just enough speed off that the batter would pop it up or hit a ground ball.
Very good. Okay, contestant number 2, Giovanni, ask Rich a question.
How does it feel to be a Major League Baseball player?
Good question.
I'd have to say it's kind of an exciting feeling because people look up to, like yourself, you look up to me and say, hey, this is really special, this guy's really something. But what you find out is all these Major League Baseball players or people that have played Major League Baseball, they're just regular average guys that got an opportunity to perform out on the field.
Very good. Contestant number 3, come on, ask Rich Nye a question.
How did it feel to play with Ernie Banks?
Well, I'll tell you what, if you've ever seen anything about Ernie Banks is the epitome of optimism. You know, the weather's great, let's play 2 today. I have to say, in many years of watching Ernie play baseball, I never saw him throw his bat, I never saw him swear, I never saw him get angry. He just went out and did a great job every day and just kept everybody up and going. I'd say it was great. Great experience.
Very good question, good answer. Let me ask you one question. You know, we hear a lot of Little Leaguers saying, I want to throw a curveball. I have my own opinion about that. What do you think about Little Leaguers learning to throw curveballs? What do you think they should do when they're learning?
Well, I think the biggest problem with Little Leaguers learning a curveball is their bodies aren't done growing. And what they start doing is they start putting stresses on joints and tendons and ligaments that may get injured at an age of 10, 11, 12 and not really fully recover. I've had a lot of friends injure themselves when they were youngsters and they couldn't throw when they were older.
Yeah.
If you would throw fastballs and changeups and work on the mechanics of the pitching motion, as you get stronger, then the curveballs and the sliders and all the other pitches can come along with it.
Very good answer. Decision time is here. Have you made a choice?
It was a very difficult decision, and as I want these boys to know, it's nothing personal. I just happened to like one of them better than the other two, and it was Giovanni.
Giovanni, all right. Congratulations, Giovanni. Very good. And they were all fantastic. I know that nobody made an error. No. And Giovanni, here's your prize for winning on the Bullpen Buddies today. And that's all the time we've got on the Bullpen Buddies. We hope you join us next time. For Rich Nye, I'm Coach Cappy. We'll see you next time.
I enjoyed that another time. I've watched that several times, and I keep enjoying it more every time I watch it. Here's another one that you're going to see right now, and this is called Inside Baseball, another DVD that you can obtain just by contacting the Pro Sport Report 2.0. But Inside Baseball contains 19 classic interviews, and it includes some executives and officials. One of the interviews that I'm most proud of is my interview with a dear old friend, Roland Hemond, who was 3-time General Manager of the Year, and he was inducted into baseball's Hall of Fame for Lifetime Achievement, the Buck O'Neill Lifetime Achievement Award. And everybody's so proud of Roland. He didn't have an enemy in the business. The only man that I know in Major League Baseball for over 40 years that never had an enemy. and he's on this. And so you're going to be able to see my interview with Roland Hemond, along with 7 Hall of Famers and other great near Hall of Famers. Now we're honored to have with us a gentleman who was at one time the youngest general manager in Major League Baseball, Dave Dombrowski. Dave, thanks for being on our program.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
And I have to say that you were probably one of the more fortunate people in Major League Baseball, because you came in and joined the White Sox under Roland Hemond, the face of baseball, probably the nicest guy in all of baseball.
Well, there's no question. Sometimes you look back at your career and when you've had opportunities, and sometimes you're very fortunate. In my case, I couldn't have been any more fortunate when you have somebody like Roland Hemond to start under him and actually be my mentor and take me every step of the way, not only about baseball, but about life in general. You just couldn't be any more fortunate.
Well, you started right out of college, if I'm not mistaken, about 22 years old?
Yes, I did. Yes, I was 21 years old. I was out of Western Michigan University, and I started with the White Sox in January of 1978. And I started in player development and scouting as administrative assistant at that point, and then worked my way up. But Roland was the guy that was a general manager at that time and took the time to basically teach me every step of the way. So it's a long time ago, but very, very fortunate.
I looked at your front office personnel. You have listed 16 people that head your scouting departments in various parts of the world, and that you don't even list your scouts themselves. How many scouts do you have in addition to those 16 leaders?
Well, we have a lot of them, and we believe in it a great deal. We have I'd say there's about 18 full-time scouts around the United States, and then we have our national cross-checkers, which we have 3 of those, and then our regional cross-checkers, which we also have 3 of those. We have a scouting director, of course, and a vice president of scouting. So when you look at that in the United States, we have about 25 guys, plus a lot of part-time people then that help them, or bird dog type scouts. And then you start going internationally to Latin America, where we have dozens more, and then to the Far East we have people that head the Pacific Rim, Australia, and so you start talking about international scouting, and today it's very, very important because you can find talent all over the world, and you need to be cognizant of that, and you can't leave any stone unturned. So when you start talking about the number of scouts we have, they're so numerous it's hard to keep exactly track of the exact number.
The reason we're here is sitting next to me right here, my good friend Roland Hemond, who I call the face of baseball. And it's such an honor for us to be talking with Roland Hemond. Roland, my personal congratulations. I've talked to you on the phone and given you my congratulations, but my personal heartfelt congratulations on receiving the very prestigious Buck O'Neill Lifetime Achievement Award. What an honor.
It certainly is one of the highlights of my career, without question. I was fortunate to get to know Buck O'Neill, and what a deep impression he made upon me as a gentleman, so gracious, so kind, and such a good baseball man who had managed and played in the Negro Leagues and became the first African-American coach with the Chicago Cubs, and was instrumental in bringing Ernie Banks and Lou Brock to the Cubs organization. And for me to stand at Cooperstown recently to receive that award was beyond description.
Executive of the Year 3 times, twice as the general manager of the Chicago White Sox and once as the general manager of the Baltimore Orioles. And the year that you achieved that honor with the Orioles, I believe you set some sort of, the team set some sort of a record from the least wins the previous year to the most wins. What was it, 32 games difference or something?
Yeah, 32 and a half games increase of improvement. The first year we started off so badly, we lost 21 straight, set a new all-time record for an opening. But I used to console myself or keep my enthusiasm by saying, well, I inherited this, I didn't create it. Yeah. So we'll have a lot of fun when we get it straight. Yeah. And fortunately, we made a number of trades that winter, and Frank Robinson did a masterful job as manager, and we improved by 32 and a half games and played Toronto in the final weekend. We had to win 2 out of 3. Unfortunately, we weren't able to pull that off, but it still was a very remarkable and rewarding year.
I have to mention one more very important thing that's near and dear to Roland's heart, and that is the Professional Baseball Scouts Foundation. Tell us about that. You were instrumental in starting that organization along with Dennis Gilbert, Dave Yoakum, and Harry Minor, right?
Yes, well, what happened, we were at a general manager's meeting and we were having breakfast, and when the book Moneyball came out, some of the clubs' ownerships bought into it right away, and 103 scouts were let go that winter, and it just broke my heart. Not for the right reasons, but somebody thought computers could do the work. And they're finding out it's a people game.
Right.
Computers to an extent, and you accumulate the data that it can provide you, but you're still dealing with the player who has the heart, the discipline, the winning type player, and not one who's just statistically minded to help his cause, but the club doesn't win. So, I mean, it's a combination, and no knock against what people believe in, and we utilize some of it as well, but it's still a people's game, and that's where you have to show respect to your players who have worked so hard once they sign, and we're watching young players working out here in early afternoon and working on the fundamentals of the game, and it's highly competitive. And every time a player with whom I've been associated from the time he signed and met his parents, so to speak, and know what they've gone through to get there, when they're introduced, I always get the goosebump because we know what it means to that young man. And then if he does well and becomes an all-star and a Hall of Famer, so much the better.
2005 was the most satisfying year. I think you'd agree with that, right? 2005, the World Series. Brings a smile to your face.
Absolutely. It was a wonderful year. It was a great year. And, you know, it ended a drought of 88 years, and it brought tremendous happiness to people in Chicago and White Sox fans all over the country.
Yeah. Do you feel that there's some way that we can better the climate for scouts? They have a rough job, as I think everybody agrees, because they're traveling all the time, for one thing.
Well, a scout's life is a terrible life because they live in automobiles. They're driving from one tank town to another tank town, and they are the backbone of this game. I mean, we wouldn't have any of the players that we have if it weren't for the scouts. Right. Somebody has to find them. Somebody has to evaluate them. So they're tremendously valuable. It's unfortunate that it seems like every time a new person takes over as a general manager of a club, he wants to get rid of a lot of the scouts and bring in his own scouts. So they tend not to be with one club for a real long period of time, and it's tough. I mean, they are covered now by a pension plan, which they weren't years ago. But it's a very, very difficult life, and as far as I'm concerned, any good idea anybody has to help scouts, count me in.
It has to be a team effort, does it not?
Well, there's no question that at the end of the day, the players win the game on the field, but championships are won by organizations, and the organizations consist of not only the players, the general manager, the coaches, the manager, the scouts, the people in the marketing department who have to find money so we can pay the players, the administrative people. It takes an entire organization, and the scouts are a critical part of every organization.
What do you feel about the recent, within the last 3 years, the rise of sabermetrics, let's say, and all of the new systems and the new terms that the fans are just becoming familiar with now? Do you think that is taking over in the scouting business of baseball, or do you think there needs to be a happy medium between the old method of scouting and the old method of reporting by the scouts combined with the sabermetrics?
Now, sabermetrics are fine, but they don't take the place of good old-fashioned evaluation. First of all, when you're looking at when scouts are looking at players at high school and college, there are no sabermetrics. Right. There are no statistics that are going to help them. Now, when we get to the big leagues or high minor leagues, it's helpful to look at statistics, but nothing will ever take the place of talent evaluation by individuals.
And so you're really the big asset to your scouting system, and not only the White Sox, but any other team in Major League Baseball, are the experienced scouts that have had success in bringing forth good ball players.
No, that's right. Remember, we're projecting what a player could be most of the time, not what he was. We're looking through the windshield, not the rearview mirror. Statistics give you a history, but we want to know, where's this guy going? Is he going to get better? If he weighs 180 pounds when he's 18 years old, what's he going to be when he's 22 years old? Somebody has to project that, and statistics don't do that.
And you as chairman of the board, do you get involved in the scouting business at all?
I like to sit in on discussions. I don't sit in on all of them, but I like to sit in, and I really enjoy being with scouts. I love I love meeting with scouts, particularly at the winter meetings, and hearing the stories of what they did 30 or 40 years ago.
The bottom line is that if a scout's recommendation makes it up the ladder through the cross-checkers to the scouting director to the general manager, you still have the last say because you signed the checks, right?
Well, that's true, but I have the last say when it comes to spending money, no question about that. But if I ever overruled my general manager or my scouting director with respect to a talent decision, then I have the wrong general manager or the wrong scouting director. Because my job is to get people to do those things better than I could do.
And now we're honored to have with us on the about the scouting business of Major League Baseball, Tom Ricketts, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Chicago Cubs. May I call you Tom?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thank you very much. And I have to tell the viewing audience out there that in addition to being the Chief Executive of the Chicago Cubs, you're a Director of TD Ameritrade Holding Corporation, Chairman and CEO of In Capital LLC, and that your entire family, including your parents, your sister, and 2 brothers, are all involved as owners of the Chicago Cubs. How do you fit all this into your daily work schedule?
Well, when we closed on the team, I did step off the Ameritrade board, so that helped a little bit. But it's really all about just having good people that you trust, that work with you on all your projects. So, and obviously the family helps out here, and we work together as a board, and hire the right people to work for all those organizations, and it seems like it's going okay.
Yeah. Well, going okay, you might see this background here. This is the brand new Wrigley Field with the new buildings that are going to be going up pretty soon. Explain just a little bit about this. I know this is about the scouting business, has nothing to do with Wrigley, but I know how proud you are of this project.
Absolutely. And one of the things we've been working on for several years is to really save and preserve Wrigley Field, but also improve it. And one of the ways we show people what we're trying to accomplish is by creating this model, which I believe cost more than my first house. So but the model is very detailed. And from this angle, although it's probably hard for people to pick it up on the camera, the fact is that we have the features from 1935 of
the iconic marquee.
Yeah, well, the marquee is going to be there, but also like. In the 20s, I think that William Wrigley was very committed to having Wrigley Field be the most beautiful ballpark in baseball, and built in a lot of very nice features, exposed brick and terracotta tiles and decorative iron, a lot of great things that have been lost over time. So the last phase of the Wrigley renovation project is to bring back some of these beautiful features and really restore Wrigley Field to what it looked like when it was at its best.
Fantastic. And you're going to have an entire plaza back there. I guess your offices will be in the building, that far building, and this will be a hotel?
Right. And then in addition to what we're doing for the park, outside the park, we're building a plaza that we'll be able to use on game days and non-game days, both for people coming to the game and for people that live in the neighborhood. So just programming it in thoughtful ways wherever we can. We are going to build a small building where we can put our offices. And then across the street, we'll have a hotel, which will kind of tie it all together.
Very good. My compliments on the project. It's amazing. Tom, your siblings and you grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, and you moved to Chicago in 1984 to attend the University of Chicago. And you shared an apartment with your brother Peter. And the apartment happened to be above the sports corner at Addison and Sheffield, across from Wrigley Field. How convenient was that for a Cub fan like you?
Yeah, it was certainly convenient from going to the game standpoint. It wasn't as convenient as for being productive at work. But the fact is, we lived right above the corner, right above the sports corner bar, and went to a lot of games that year. And we were in the bleachers a lot. I mean, it was just kind of part of our social life.
As the story goes, you met your wife Cecilia in the bleachers at Wrigley Field. I assume she was a rabid Cubs fan as well. It sounds like it was written by a scriptwriter. Tell us it's a real, true story.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. We would get bleacher tickets for almost every Saturday and Sunday during the summer. And it was a Sunday afternoon, and we used to sit in the front row at center field because before what I call the tyranny of the 2-beer limit, you could just send one guy down to buy as many beers as you needed, so we could just hand them up. So we sat in the same spot, And then one day, my wife and a bunch of her college friends were all there together. So we met there, and now we have 5 kids and been married for 21 years.
Well, it worked out. That's fantastic. We're talking with Tony LaRussa, Hall of Fame manager, inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York on July 27, 2014. And Tony, you have one of the more enviable records in the history of Major League Baseball, the 3rd winningest manager of all time, 2,728 victories. I know you've been managing for 33 years. Chicago White Sox, 7.5 years, Oakland A's, 9.5 years, St. Louis Cardinals, 16 years. We are honored to have you participating in our program today.
I've been the most fortunate guy. You talk about those career wins, Jim, but I was in 3 organizations, and all 3 of them were perfect ownership, front office. They got your players, develop them. So it started with Roland and Bill Veeck and Jerry Reinsdorf in Chicago, and to think that here, all these years later, to try this front office thing and have Roland here, who actually started it, is an unbelievable coincidence. And he is tied first for the most beloved man in professional baseball for all his 60 years, boy. There isn't anybody that doesn't love Roland, and he's earned every bit of it.
How do you feel about Major League Baseball scouts and the scouting system of Major League Baseball?
Well, I've heard when I first got into the game that they are the lifeblood of our game, and after being around a number of years, I understand how true that is, because bringing talent into the professional baseball situation, circumstances, organizations is where it starts. And normally you delineate the amateur scout, the guys who are out there scouting, the high schoolers, the college guys, junior college guys, getting ready for the draft. Sometimes it may be an international player who's not draftable, and then you talk about a professional scout, which is already looking at players who have signed a contract and you're thinking about acquiring them. So I really believe if you look at all the different jobs, finding the talent and developing them in the minor leagues and bringing them in and competing at the major league level with coaches and managers, the most difficult job, I think, is the scouts, especially at the amateur level, because you're really looking at a talent base and then trying to forecast what he will develop into. And that is a heck of a responsibility, especially you're not with him every day, so it's hard for you to read his character and his competitiveness. You may get 3 or 4 looks, but you're being asked to look at a high schooler, what's he going to be like in 4 or 5 years, and a college guy in a couple 3. So I think that those guys have the toughest jobs, and the guys that do it the best have an understanding that talent is where it starts. But you got to read how hard the guys willing to work, compete, and play the team game.
You were very instrumental in bringing the Milwaukee Brewers to town back in 1970. Those were the good old days, right?
Well, they were. It's a long time ago. When I think back, a 5.5-year fight to bring baseball back here, which were really difficult years, and taught me a lot about life, though, and taught me a lot about tenacity and patience. And but on March 31st of 1970, we got the Seattle Pilots. Of course, that night became the Milwaukee Brewers, and it was a great story.
We're here today to talk about the part of baseball that I think is not really given much consideration by people, maybe not people inside of baseball, but the fans, and that is scouts and scouting.
I agree with you.
And I was just going to ask you, what do you think baseball would be like if we didn't have scouts or the scouting system?
Well, they don't get a lot of credit, and they lead tough lives. They're on the road all the time. I lived with a lot of scouts in the years I ran the Brewers. My favorite scout, and he became really our super scout and worked in the office, was D. Fondy, the old Cub and Dodger first baseman, who I got from the Mets in 1975, and who I became very close to. I miss D to this day. He passed away a few years ago. He was a brilliant scout. And look, you're only going to be as good as your scouts. That's how important they are. They'll determine your franchise. I remember D came back from the Twin Cities He was up scouting. We were the second or third pick that year. And he said, well, I've seen a kid I'm going to take. We got to take. Who was that? Well, it was a kid named Molitor, Paul Molitor.
Good choice.
And interesting, there were Harold Baines, who the White Sox took, who turned out to be a wonderful player, Mike Ivey, who didn't turn out to be such a, and then Molitor, who wound up in the Hall of Fame. So that's how important scouts are. Yeah. You have those. I remember in 1973, there was a tremendous debate in our office whether to take a left-handed pitcher from upstate New York or the shortstop from Woodland Hills, California, by the name of Robin Yount. Fortunately, we made the right choice and took Robin Yount.
Well, I guess you were a pretty good executive back in those days, making all the right choices.
Well, I had good scouts. I'm going to give the scouts credit for that. No question about it.
You know, there's one person that you and I consider a mutually good friend, and I consider him the face of baseball, for want of a better term, and that's Roland Hemond.
Oh, yes.
And Roland started his career in 1951 with the Hartford Chiefs and then went to the Boston Braves, the Milwaukee Braves, the Los Angeles Angels, Chicago White Sox, Baltimore Orioles, 3-time Executive of the Year. He is one person who realizes what the scouting business and scouts deserve.
Roland Hemond is the epitome of what this sport is about. Now, I first met Roland in the 50s when he was here with the Milwaukee Braves. And they had a great farm system, produced Hank Aaron and Billy Bruton, and Joe Adcock. I go on and on and on and on. But Roland is a guy that I've watched my whole career and his whole career. And he's just a great baseball man. But he understands how systems are built, how farm systems are built, how organizations are built. And he's been an invaluable person wherever he's been.
Yes.
Oh, I have the highest regard for Roland. You know, one of the great things in being the commissioner is there are so many great people in this sport who make invaluable contributions, don't get a lot of credit for it. In fact, maybe don't get any credit for it. But I know what they've done. And the answer to your question is because of people like Roland Hemond, this sport has matured and gone on to record heights, but they're the ones that find the players and bring the players to the big league.
We're honored to have Rob Manfred, Commissioner of Baseball, participate in our special program about the scouting business of baseball. Mr. Commissioner, thank you for taking your time with us today. How's your first year as Commissioner going so far?
Well, it's been fantastic so far. I've really enjoyed the opportunity to get out, meet with our clubs, meet with our players, and give people a chance to get to know me just a little better, hear me talk about the game.
Well, I've researched you on the internet a little bit, and I see that you were born on September 28th, 1958 in Rome, New York. You probably don't know this. Maybe you have looked it up. I don't know. But 3 days after you were born, when you were 3 days old, the Yankees opened the World Series in Milwaukee against the Milwaukee Braves. And I guess your dad and mom were Yankees fans because that was the only team in New York at that time because the Dodgers and Giants were 3,000 miles away in California.
Well, my dad certainly was a big Yankee fan, both my parents actually. And he was a Yankee fan even when the Dodgers were still in New York.
Your dad and mom were probably cheering for guys like Mickey Mantle and Moose Skowron and Hank Bauer and Yogi Berra, Bob Turley, Whitey Ford, Don Larson, Ryne Duran, and that was one of the few teams that came back from a 3-1 deficit in the World Series to win 4-3. And so that's when you became a Yankee fan, when you were 3 days old.
Well, I think I was a little older than that, actually.
Well, actually, I read where you were very happy that your dad and mom took your sister and your brother and you to Yankee Stadium in 1968 when you were about 10 years old. And at that time, the Yankees weren't in the World Series, but you still were a Yankee fan. We're talking now about the scouting business of baseball. And, of course, our TV documentary is called The Scout. And Bud Selig has been one of your most ardent supporters in your career with Major League Baseball. Bud and you are both very concerned, I know, about pro baseball scouts and the scouting system of baseball. I believe that my interview with you will show the fans that you really feel for the scouts. Can you give us your opinion about the scouting business and about the scouts?
Well, I think that the professional scouts in baseball are kind of the backbone of the baseball family. Obviously we've become a very large business, but even with that evolution to being a big business, we still think of ourselves as the baseball family, and it's the scouts that are out there making sure that we attract the kind of talent that makes our product at the big league level compelling.
I'm interested in the 5 goals that you announced at the beginning of the year. Your 5 main goals, I should say. I know you've got more than 5, but youth outreach, technological advances, pace of play, strengthening player relations, and a more unified business operation. I like that youth outreach part because, after all, the scouts are scouting youth. Some of them start in the Little League, I think, nowadays.
We do have scouting activity that's going down younger and younger, but youth has been a real focus in our first few months and will continue to be. The fact of the matter is, when you think about the business of baseball, the 2 biggest determinants of fan avidity is, did you play the game as a kid, and how old were you when you went to the ballpark the first time? The participation piece of it, however, has another aspect to it that you mentioned. Only if we have a big pipeline of players playing the game as kids are we able to attract and train the sort of great athletes that we need to keep Major League Baseball the great product that it is today. And obviously, scouts play a crucial role in that process.
Now, just for those of you youngsters out in the viewing audience, we want to be sure you understand that Mike's grandfather was once the president of the Chicago Cubs. Am I right? And Mike's father was the owner of several teams, and I'm going to let Mike explain all that to you rather than have me do it.
Well, I mean, he started to work, as you mentioned, for his father, who actually was president of the Cubs for the Wrigley family. And when Mr. Wrigley died, Dad hung around for a while as the Cub treasurer, and then got a chance to buy a ball club in Milwaukee in the old American Association. So he went to Milwaukee for 3 or 4 years. The war years, of course, interfered, and finally in 47, he got the chance to buy the Cleveland Indians. And in 1948, with the help of a couple of guys named Feller, for example, and
Rapid Robert.
That's right. They won a world championship. All winter he tried to trade Lou Boudreau, and he couldn't unload Boudreau. All Boudreau did was become the most valuable player and manage that club. And
the youngest manager, too.
And they set an attendance record in 1948 that stood for some 40. They drew 2.6 million people, and that was really the one. It was ironic because my dad was such a Chicago guy, born in Chicago, raised, as he always hated to say, in Hinsdale, but that was the fact. My mother always said he drug himself across to the wrong side of the tracks as soon as he could, which he replicated again when he bought the St. Louis Browns in 1950. So, and then the White Sox twice, probably he's best remembered for the White Sox in '59 that won a pennant and got beaten by the Dodgers in 5 games, and then came back to Chicago in 1975 when they were in danger of moving to Seattle. So he had a wonderful and very checkered career, and it was so wonderful to see you talking extensively with Roland Hemond, because of course Roland was his general manager the second pass through Chicago. And 2 weeks ago we're in Cooperstown watching Roland get the Buck O'Neill Award, and the 2 of those guys together, that's only 130, 140 years of baseball.
Talk about Mike Veeck and your enterprises. Aside from the 7 minor league baseball teams, I know you have your own corporation. You're out for speaking engagements all the time. Tell us a little bit about your private endeavors.
Well, I went to work in '76 for the White Sox. I spent 6 glorious years there. I subsequently worked for the Detroit Tigers for a couple of years, and the Rays, and the Marlins. So, I kicked around a little bit. But in order to make sure that every time I got fired, I had somewhere to go, my wife said, let's buy a minor league team. And we started one in St. Paul, Minnesota, which went on to sell out for 18 straight years.
St. Paul Saints?
Yes, the St. Paul Saints. You know, had J.D. Drew and Darryl Strawberry and Jason Varitek for an hour. And from that base, we just kind of purchased a little piece of a club here and there. We have 3 affiliated clubs and a piece of 4 independents. But after I got fired by the Rays, I made a speech one day, and a guy said, that ought to be a book. And I knew he was brain dead.
So you wrote it anyway.
Well, no, you know what I said is, he goes, I think we can get money for it. And I said, I'll write it this afternoon.
You're a fast writer.
And that's what happened, really.
Fun is Good, right?
Fun is Good was born, and Fun is Good has become 4 books written about the ball clubs. I wrote one, Fun is Good. I'm working on a second one, Everything I Needed to Know I Learned in Saloons. We're arguing about the title, and it grew into this corporate culture. We have training videos and things that really happened by mistake because no one expected the economic climate to change so rapidly in 2008. And suddenly, employers are saying, well, if we can't pay them enough, we have to find other things to do. Let's make it fun for them. What a concept. Yeah. Be nice to people and they'll deliver a great product. So I'm a little always embarrassed by the fact that I feel so strongly coming from my mother and father, my grandfather, that fun is so important, not only in the workplace, but just in life in general. And suddenly it's timely. I don't know how that happened.
You know, you lead me right into my next question. I hear through the grapevine that one of your partners is a well-known comedian by the name of Bill Murray.
Yeah, he and I have been partners for, 20, 25 years. We have no agreements on paper. And we've had a wonderful time, and so much of the philosophy of Fun is Good has come from, the successes that Bill's had with, not just with Caddyshack and Stripes or What About Bob, but some of his later work where he's wandered across the aisle and done some dramatic roles. He, I think, epitomizes the pursuit of joy. And when you think about it, they tried, he and Brian Doyle Murray, his brother, and Harold Ramis wrote Caddyshack. They tried to get movie houses to make it. And nobody thought a movie about a gopher and a golfer would be particularly funny. Now, I wonder how the genius that turned that movie down feels today. It's become part of the lexicon, Bark Like a Dog, all of the wonderful lines and references in everyday life. And so we take a lot of those movies and a lot of those lines and incorporate them into our promotions. People don't realize that Bill Murray's made 60 movies.
I didn't realize that either.
Yeah, it's a staggering number. He's always working, and except for Garfield, I think he's probably happy he's made most of them.
Talking about all the experts in Hollywood turning really good things down, the movie Rocky was turned down by every studio in Hollywood before Sylvester Stallone decided he was going to do it on his own. So that's the way to do it.
Yeah, there's something in all of us. Nobody ever cheered for Goliath. Hey, crush that little bum David. But every once in a while, somebody lands a blow, for all of us, the fans, and something wonderful happens.
Well, Mike, it's been a joy talking to you.
Did you ever dream when you were playing high school ball you were in high school in 1952, I would imagine. Didn't you play just 2 years of professional ball before coming to the Cubs?
Actually, I was a softball player.
A softball player?
We had no baseball in high school I went to in Dallas, Texas, and I played on a church softball team for the most of my young life, and then a fellow by the name of Bill Barrett came up and asked me would I like to try playing baseball. That's when I got into baseball. But basically, I was a 16-inch softball player around Dallas, and I enjoyed that very much.
Not even the 12-inch, the big 16-inch without the gloves, huh?
Right, without the glove, and I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Well, you must have had one or more people in your youth that taught you the fundamentals of playing hardball, because you played some real hardball through the years. Do you attribute your success or your learning the fundamentals to any one person?
Yes, I do. A fellow named Bill Bear and another guy named Hank Thompson used to play with the New York Giants.
Good third baseman.
Hank usually come through Dallas after the season was over, and when the major league player come into town, in those days people got excited, and he got me aside and he showed me little techniques about hitting and fielding and base running and those little things, and it stayed with me. And then after that, I moved up to Kansas City Monarchs, and a guy named Buck O'Neill helped me a lot in developing the fundamentals of the game. And then when I got to the major leagues, I worked a lot with a young man named Jackie Robinson. He helped me a lot with playing the infield, positioning. And then I played with a guy named Gene Baker. So all through my career, I was with people who understood the finer points of playing baseball, positioning, the pitchers, the catcher's sign, the wind, the sun, and playing all those things, and it helped me a great deal.
The clock on the wall says I can't stay for very much longer because there's no more time left for our show for today, but I want you to remember that the Scout is available, and this is a documentary that we did for Major League Baseball, and Inside Baseball is also available to you on DVD. And the credits at the end of the show will contain all the information you need to contact us to find out how you can obtain one or both of these for your very own. And that's all the time we've got to talk with you for today. I know you enjoyed the show because I enjoyed it very much doing it. We'll see you next time on the Pro Sport Report 2.0. Have a great day, sports fans.